Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast, the Little Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I'm your host Vince. Hopefully you're having a great day. It is Tuesday, and today for another podcast for you, coming at you with AD&D. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address, and theevildm.com is my website where you can sign up for the newsletter and get it directly to your email box. A lot of people have been doing that, so thank you to those that have been signing up. Thank you to those that have been downloading and rating on Spotify. We're well over 200 ratings now. Thank you very much. If you want to support me, buymeacoffee.com/evilDM. Easiest way. With that said, heading over to the Unearthed Arcana book on page 10, I want to talk a little bit about Dark Elves, also known as the Drow. So, there's now a sub-race of elf or elven. You're allowed to play a dark elf or a drow. The term is used interchangeably within this whole paragraph here about them. And there's some interesting tidbits. I'm not quite sure why they just didn't stick to one or the other name for them, dark elves or drow. It's just like they keep switching interchangeably back and forth, but we'll get into that. Let's see here. Their form is similar to other elves, but their skin color is inky black of a moonless night, and their hair is normally pure white or silver. Class options open to the dark elf characters are cleric, fighter, including ranger, cavalier, magic user, thief, including thief, acrobat, and assassin. Males and females of this subrace differ in the maximum levels obtainable in cleric, fighter, and magic user classes. Now it goes back to Drow. Drow are generally evil and chaotic in nature, though player characters are not required to be so. So not every Drow or Dark Elf is evil or has to be evil, though everyone just assumes and plays them as they're evil or chaotic evil. A Dark Elf player character is considered an outcast for his or her homeland deep within the earth, whether by matter of choice, alignment, or merely being on the losing side of some family-wide power struggle. That is absolutely perfect to give your character an interesting backstory of why he is not the typical dark elf evil character. Maybe he had some falling out with the family. It gives you that sentence right there is enough to give you a way to write a backstory. And thank you very much, Mr. Gygax. Let's see. As such, Drow characters do not have immediate access to weaponry, armor, or cloaks and poises that are normally found in the possession of a non-player character of the subrace. The 50% magic resistance possessed by NPC Dark Elves is likewise not property of the player. Why is it property of a player character who have abandoned their homeland? It is likely that this power is a result of an extended dabbling in dark arts as well as the effect of their environment. Once having made the decision to embark upon the adventuring career, a Drow, again we switch, player character can never regain this magical resistance short of the use of wish spells or similar magics, but can still rise in power and dominate fellow Dark Elves. Again, Dark Elves. Outcast Dark Elves do retain the customary elven resistance to charm and sleep, and they receive a bonus of +2 to all saving throws versus magical effects. Dark Elves do not gain the combat bonuses of surface elves with regards to sword and bow, but may fight with 2 weapons without penalty, provided each weapon may be easily wielded in one hand. So you now have the ability to use 2 weapons, as long as they're a weapon that's a one-handed weapon, without any penalties to attack. They cannot use shields when performing this type of combat, but may use a spiked buckler in one of their 2 weapons. Interesting. Drow can speak the common tongue and the language of the undercommon, a trade language of those who dwell beneath the earth, which undercommon is definitely something that people forget about using, and I think it got lost a little bit, but plus the elvish and gnomish languages, as well as other languages up to the limit prescribed by intelligence score. In addition, all Dark Elves speak the silent tongue of the subterranean dwellers. a language of complex hand signals and gestures, so they can speak sign language, is what it's basically saying, combined with facial expressions and body language. The range of communication in this silent tongue is only 30 feet, but it is as informative as any other language within range. Interesting. Only the Drow may fully master this tongue, though other races may be taught its basic signs and symbols. Dark Elves have Infravision out to a range of 12 feet. The base movement of a female Drow is 15, while that of a male Drow is only 12. Drow have the ability to detect secrets and concealed doors just as any other elves can, and they also can detect new construction, stonework traps, lighting walls, blah, 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 just like dwarves can do. Interesting. Dark elves can move silently in the same manner as other elves under the same conditions and are only surprised on 1 in 8 chance. Dark elves have the innate ability to use the following magical spells once per day: Dancing Lights, Fairy Fire, and Darkness, 5-foot radius. Upon attaining 4th level in any class, Dark Elves gain the ability to cast Detect Magic, Know Alignment, and Levitate once per day. Females of 4th or higher can use Clairvoyance, Detect Lie, or its reverse, Suggestion, Dispel Magic once per day. So it's not just once per day out of the group, once per day per those spells. Ability scores for Drow characters may be generated either by the normal means or the methods described on page 34 of the Fiend Folio tome, at the option of the DM. If the later method is used, the adjustments to the initial rolls for elves given in penalties and bonuses selection of players do not apply, so they don't get the normal bonuses that would apply on page 14 of the player's handbook when you select an elf. You'd have to follow what is used in the Fiend Folio. Drow are affected by light in the same manner as Grey Dwarfs, another race that was introduced in this book. See above. They would prefer to travel either at night or in gloomy, overcast conditions when they venture out into the surface world. Now, looking up, because you're probably curious what happens if they are out in the daylight. Daylight and spells such as continual light affect the Druger or the Grey Dwarfs as following. Their enhanced ability gain surprise is negated. The character's dexterity is effectively reduced by 2 for the duration of the exposure, with all penalties to armor class, thieving abilities, blah, 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 blah. All their attacks that made it -2 to hit, and any opponent's saving throws versus the Grey Dwarf's attacks are made at +2. And let's see, the Grey Dwarf is located in darkness or in deep shadow, but attack, no, I don't think that applies here. But basically, they will be kind of like I want to say like a daywalker vampire, and they're kind of they could go out, but daywalkers can go out in the daytime, so that's a different thing. But the sunlight and continual light and things like that, anything bright, will affect a Drow/Dark Elf to the ability that they don't want to travel at night. So playing this as a player character, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with your group unless there is a way to kind of protect your character. Now, I would think wearing hoods and stuff like that, and some type of protection over you from the sun, will not really matter much because it does affect your eyes. So that would be another problem as well. But the sun beating down on your character is basically your kryptonite. Now, I've had plenty of characters in my campaign that were Drow or Dark Elf, thanks to a certain book, which shall not be named. And generally, it works out fine. And a lot of times, the parties were traveling at night due to the Drow character, and they would sleep during the day. The party really didn't have a problem with that because they liked it better to travel at night because it was a little bit more covering, and the party was more on the leaning side of evil, so they didn't care about the daytime. When they happened to be out in the daytime, I did have the Drow character suffer the effects of the sunlight, and it didn't seem to bother the player who was running the Drow at all, so whatever. They knew what they were getting into. There's nothing they really can do. I know at one point his character had wished that, because they got a couple wishes, he had wished that he would be able to function in the daylight as well as the dark the same. And I gave it to him because it was turning into a little bit of a pain, because the party had to coordinate everything at night, and then they were like, "Well, we should just go in the day." Oh, we can't because of blah blah blah's character. So I kind of, when they got the wish spell, he wished for that. I gave it to him, but I did take away the some of the abilities of the spells. I don't remember what I did exactly, but it was something that we compromised on. I said, "Well, you can have this. It's going to make your character a little OP, so you're going to lose the following things." Then we kind of discussed it, and I believe it was some of the magic spells that he was able to cast. So he was fine with it as long as his character was going out in the daytime and he didn't get his penalties. So that's how you do it as a DM. You compromise, you work with a player. You obviously, as a DM, have the right to say, no, too bad, this is how it is. But then you don't have happy players. So, I mean, the game is not necessarily a me versus you thing, even though that's what they kind of fostered back then, was a kind of a DM versus player adversary thing. But it really shouldn't be. And when we played back then, it really was DM versus player. And over the years, I've kind of grown away from that. And I like to say no, but, or how about this, as opposed to just a straight out no. I don't like to really say no. I like to do, how about we do this? Or my suggestion is this. That way you don't have to tell a player no. Unless it's a flat out really ridiculous thing of like calling down the cosmos of the universe and a magical spell to destroy everything. It's just like, no, you can't do that. You're not breaking my game. Things like that. Well, I'm gonna head out. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Tell me what you think about the Dark Elf slash Drow, or Drow. I said it wrong. Drow. And it is Drow, not Dro. Keep it original, keep it old school. Good night. God bless, and keep those AD&D fires lit. Good night.